A very good morning to one and all present. I am Bhuvneshwari Nagarajan. I am the Startup Coordinator at Crescent Innovation and Incubation Council. Crescent Innovation and Incubation Council has been established as a Section 8 not-for-profit company and acting as a one-stop shop technology business incubator (TBI) for startups. So currently CIIC, that is Crescent Innovation Incubation Council, has 75 startups incubated under us, where we have external startups, student startups, alumni startups, and also faculty startups. So we provide a lot of facilities that includes, connecting to investors, providing some government funding support will be the connecting dots. And we also connect them for marketing. We promote them with the investors, capital ventures, and also we provide them mentoring support. We have a mentor pool of 50 plus mentors from industry as well as from BS Abdul Rahman Crescent Institute. We also give them support for, by providing interns from our college. So this is all about CIIC. So today we are going to have a session on business model canvas. So today's speaker is Sushil Kumar Paul Pandey. He is also one of our incubators. He's incubated under us with a company called Shrimp Horde. So a little information, a brief about him. So Sushil is fond of breaking into toys and electronics gadgets to get to know how they work. These intrigued him to get into electrical and electronics engineering domain. He has he has done a lot of practical experimentation apart from curriculum that made him as the CEO and CTO of Shrimp Horde Technologies, and he's also serving as CTO at Rekindle Automations, which is also one of our incubatee. So I, along with he is actually one of our star startups where he has contributed his contributions to one of our centers of excellence, that is CIMANT, Center for this microalgal and nanotechnology center, which we have. He has contributed over there, and he is currently running a startup with 4 to 5 team members. And currently, he has also received 50 lakhs of funding from from BIRAC, DBT. I wish him all the very best. Thank you, Sushil.
So yeah, thanks for the introduction, Bruna. So we can start, right?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So hi, very good morning to all the participants. I'm very glad to take forward this session through the experience that I've gathered through 1 or 2 years of my startup experience. So I hope it's useful for you and you can take things forward in your startup or in your idea generation process. And again, thanks to CIC for giving me such an opportunity to let people know about how entrepreneurship kind of things work and how we can get going with that. And to the audience, and there are many faculties also, as I saw the list. So it's a very good platform over here in CIC. So I would also recommend faculties and students, like if they have any ideas or any plans further to start their own startup, then they can come over here and use the platform or the office space or lecture mentoring that's provided over here. So it would be of great use for you further. So yeah, let's dig into the topic. Uh, so is everyone audible, right? And the slide is visible, right?
Yes, Sushil, you're audible. Your slide is visible.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So yeah, let's dig into what's basically a business plan, or a common term. It's called business plan or a business model. Anything is fine. So basically, business plan is a vague term, and many people have many thought process on that. So it depends on individual's opinion, and it's quite a clumsy word, and there's no standard definition for a business plan because every entrepreneur, every business person have a different opinion of how their business works. And if you ask them, then it would be like a random thing that comes from their end. And to get to know a very a precise definition of what a business plan could be, this may seem a bit vague, but it still makes sense. Like, it describes the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures the value. So basically, it's a rationale or opinion of how your organization or your idea creates values and delivers the values to the customers. So this is again still a vague thing, and uh, you know here we are going to talk about what a business model canvas is. So basically, business model canvas is a common, let's say, format that you can assume for a business plan. So let's say if you normally ask a person about a business plan, you can't connect through with his ideas exactly, because the language or the terms that has been put over there are not that understandable. So to make a common platform and to jot down things over there, and apart from communicating your business plan, this also helps you to grow further with your startup ideas. Because if you put this business model canvas into place properly, then I am very much sure that you this would help you to further grow or strategize, or it would be value creation for your startup during the initial level of your transition through your startup idea. And there's a saying usually in business terms, like, your product is not the product. Basically, your business plan is the product. So yeah, product is the core technology that you would have. But apart from that, if you're sorted out with the business plan in a properly way, then it's I would guarantee you that it's very much nearing to a market fit product, or it can reach market very appropriately. And you would be also sorted out with all the other points or all the processes that would be involved in getting this product very much mature into the market. So this is how a business model canvas would look. So this here you can see there are totally 9 blocks. So this is what a business model canvas is. And let's say you have a startup at the initial stage and you have an idea. So what you can do is you can basically jot down all the stuffs that come under individual categories over here. And as I said before, if you're sorted out with this, like this could be an initial iterative process. Like, there could be various business model canvases for a single idea, because each and every time you jot down all the things, you will get to know where you're lagging or where you can enhance your process at individual phase of your startup. So now how we'll go forward with this is, we will analyze individual blocks, what the individual block says, and how you can ask questions to yourself so that you can give the details or write down the details regarding that individual block. And again, followed by that block, we'll go through a use case of a very well-known company. So I have taken the example of Ola over here. So Ola cabs, right? So we would be comparing individual blocks with a use case taken as Ola, and we will finish off with a exercise where we will be taking another company, and we will be analyzing the various blocks of that company based on what we have learned so far throughout the process. So let's first analyze what's the customer segment. So customer segment is basically a group of people or an organization that you are trying to reach and serve. So if you have an idea, and you would already know, like, this idea would be suitable for a particular person or a particular entity or a mass people as such. So let's say you have a water bottle as your product, then that water bottle is going to cater to all the people out there, right? So it's a mass segment. Now, let's say you can take into consideration a small product, let's say, let's say Amazon. So Amazon would cater to a customer segment like that would differ from product to product. Let's say is any person who is very much keen to buy something online and he doesn't want to go to the nearby store and do some hassle stuff, and he can wait at home and get things easily, then he's a potential customer for Amazon. So Amazon basically captures the mass market, and every individual out there is a potential customer segment for him. So now the various customer segment could be mass market, as I said. It could be a niche market, like you could be catering to a very small segment which nobody knows out there, or it could be segmented, or it could be diversified, or it could be a multi-sided platform. So segmented is like it could be based on the behavioral category of people, or it could be based on their profession, or it could be based on gender. So that are kind of segmented markets. Diversified markets is an individual company which have two different customer segment catering to different people category. For that, again, I would say Amazon is the best example. Back then in 2006 somewhere, they were also selling books and also selling products, and they got diverted into a different field of where they started selling products and servers on services online. So apart from normal consumers, they were also catering to different kind of customers, or enterprises, where they could sell servers, or tools which could help them to build software platforms. So those are different customer segments. So this is a diversified segment which Amazon focuses on. So these are some of the examples. And how you can categorize your customer segment is by asking these questions: for whom are you creating the value for, and who are your most important customers? So if you can able to answer these questions, then you're very much near to your customer segments. So I would like to share a small story over here, which happened back later somewhere in 1990s. So it's quite interesting to know that how customer segment helps in reaching the market and making it $1 billion business. So you must know HP. HP as a company at that point of time were making laptops, and his founder, what happened is he basically went to a island for a vacation time, and at that point of time he had an urgency and he had to call his mom back somewhere else, but he wasn't able to call. So what he thought of is he came with an idea of why can't we make a cell phone which could communicate to other people out there through satellites instead of using normal network. So he put in a lot of R&D work and a lot of money to create a big satellite phone which was size of a brick basically, and he catered it to the normal customer out there. And that one phone was costing somewhere around $600 to $700 at that point of time, and people were not interested in buying that. So what happened is later down the line he shut down the this company. That company was basically Iridium, called as Iridium. But later on, what happened is Motorola came up with the same idea, but the customer segment that they were targeting is the Navy side, Navy and the Army side, where satellite phones are very much important to make private conversations, or if they are going to some no man's land, that they can have their satellite phones and communicate with the army force over there of what's happening over there. So this makes more sense. Like in army and navy, that satellite phone acts as a vital role. But for normal people, as HP tried to sell it out, it wasn't that hit, because normal people they would have normal phones to have contact with each other, and it's not that important that they would invest $600 or $700 to just to talk it through satellite. And so that's where the customer segment plays a major role. So it's very much important to analyze very properly, like to which customer segment are you going to cater, and that has to be analyzed during the initial stage of your startup. So now we will take into consideration Ola as an example, and we'll see what Ola as the customer segments. So for Ola, if you see, there are two segments. One is the taxi service and the drivers, right? So there are two different segments in that. So basically, there are drivers involved and there are passengers involved. So these are the two segments over there. So there are city taxi, everyday commuters who want to book a cab. There are these are the basic segments like which Ola provide, and which kind of customer segments they're trying to target. So there are outstation or intercity taxis. There are also rental taxis available. And for Ola, there's a corporate thing where they send in cabs for IT people to pick up and drop every now and then. So these are from the taxi perspective, and from the driver perspective, they are also catering to the drivers. So basically, they provide cars on a rental basis or on a loan basis, where drivers who want to opt this job, they can take that car and drive them around. So these are the basic customer segments they are trying to focus on, and this is what their business does. Uh, from the perspective of what customer segments they are targeting. Yeah. So next would get into, yeah. So next we will get into the value proposition. That is the another block. So value proposition is all about what value do you add to your customer to the product that you are going to develop or you have developed. So yeah. So this is so basically the bundle of products and services that create value for a specific customers. So as I said, the value that's being created using your product for the customers that they are targeting on. So this values could be on the basis of newness, like your product is quite unique enough. That could be one of the value propositions, or it's a performance enhancer, or it could be a customization for individual customers. So these are some of the entities which help you to categorize what could be your value proposition be. So let's say for instance, we take an example as Netflix. If you see for Netflix, the value proposition could be various catalogs of movies and content creations at one place, which caters to various people out there. And uh, the another phenomenal value proposition that Netflix offers is there's no ad in between. Yeah. So these are kind of value propositions which the brands or which the products come up with, and you need to also come up with the value propositions which would intrigue the customers to buy the product. So the value that your customer is catered to. So this the questions which would answer this part of the block would be, what value do we deliver to the customers, or which one of our customer problems are we helping to solve? So basically here, if you could see the basic motive of what the pain point of the customers is, that basically brings out the value proposition of the product or the idea that you're working on. So in Ola, if you for the Ola scenario, if you see, for passengers, it's affordable and lean fare. It's high quality service. You can do advanced booking. So it's basically a hassle-free service where you can sit at your home, just tap a button, and you can rent a cab. You can book a cab, and you can pay it seamlessly without any hand overing process of rupees or cash over there. So it's a very seamless process. So that's what the basic value proposition they are providing on the passenger segment. On the driver segment, if you see, the drivers have the basic value proposition of they can work at any point of time, like they can choose their working hours. they have instant booking, they have daily payments. So when you do the payments to the after booking your cab, when you're done your ride, you pay that amount, right? So that amount directly gets credited into the driver's account on the daily basis once they have completed the rides. So these are some of the value proposition that intrigues the customer segment to use that product. So these are the value propositions that we're talking about. So the next that comes into picture is a channel. So now we have talked about the customer segment and we have talked about the value proposition that you provide to the customers. But now we need to talk about channels of how do we connect this two, like how we are taking forward the value proposition and directly getting it to the customers. So this channel is what we are talking about. So how a company communicates with and reaches its customer segment to deliver a value proposition. So the channel types could be direct sales or indirect sales. So let's say if you're if you are a customer who wants to buy a smartwatch. Let's say you want to buy an MI smartwatch. Now this watch can be delivered to you through indirect sales, which could be through Amazon or Flipkart, or through direct sales. Direct sales means the company directly sells it through their web platform, or you directly go to the MI store and get it from them. So these are various channels in broad perspective, but apart from this, that could be various channels that are being used out there. So how you could get to know about this for your product is through which channels do your customer segment want to be reached, and who are you reaching, how are you reaching them now. So basically, as I said, this is an iterative process. So this whole business model canvas, fill it every now and then, brainstorming with your team, so that you come up with new innovative ideas every once and then when you analyze this broad spectrum of 9 blocks of the business model canvas. So what you're doing, how you're having that channel now, and down the line how you would be taking that channel forward in a different point of view. So for this I have an interesting example. So in Mumbai you must have seen this dabbawalas who cater the people through getting the food from their house directly to their offices. So people going out to their offices, they go in rush and they have to travel in a rush environment. So basically, they don't have to carry their tiffin boxes at that point of time. So what they can do is they can leave for their job, and this dabbawalas, what they do is they take the tiffin from their home and they go and give it at the offices or the workplaces where they work. So these dabbawalas are well known in Mumbai, and a small guy aged 10 or 12 who came up with an idea of why can't he use this dabbawalas as a channel to get delivered parcels. So basically, if this dabbawalas are going from one place to another to just deliver this dabbas, why can't they also take along with them some couriers or day-to-day parcels that could be delivered from one place to another? So that guy built a platform out of this named Papers and Parcels, where people can, courier or send in parcels in the same locality or inside the Mumbai locality through this dabbawalas. So this dabbawalas are basically acting as a channel to take the parcels from one point to the another and deliver it to the customers. So this was quite interesting that I came through my research while my initial stage of the startup. Yeah. So for Ola, if you see what are the channels that they use to reach out to the customers. So there are self-service apps. So basically, the apps that you use for booking the Ola cabs, which could be on the Android or iOS. So these are basically the channels that Ola uses to reach you, right? And there are partners channels, other delivery channels, that it's extensive range of vehicle that includes autos and bikes. So partner channels are like what you say, for individual customer segments there are various channels, different channels, like for if you say you want a prime sedan, if you want a mini, if you're a prime XUV, so it caters to the different customer segments with different customer needs at that point of time. So that's what they are telling over here. So you can see on Twitter, on Facebook, or on YouTube, they usually come in with ads, right? So through this ads also, the customer directly gets diverted back to their page, or that's how people get to know more about Ola, or how they frequently keep posting this, so they you are up to date regarding what Ola is offering. So these are some of the channels that they are using to get their product used. So this is on the channel end. So now we'll be getting into the customer relationship. So basically now we have talked about the customer end. Now then we talked about the value proposition that you provide to the customer, which means the value that you add to their lives, and then how this value is being catered to the customer. That comes a channel, and now we are talking about customer relationship, getting customer to know their pain points or how you cater them for services further. So this is the customer relationship part. The type of relationship a company establishes with specific customer segments. So this could be categorized into personal assistance, which basically has a phone call where there are customers, care executives sitting over there. So you call them and they have a word one-on-one. There are dedicated personal assistants, there are self-service and automated service. So nowadays, most of the products have this automated services where you get automated ping from a bot, chatbot, or a AI set over there, which responds back to your queries. So that's how customer service works in most of the software kind of products, or some kind of the hardware products that are out there. And it's predominantly used basically. And based on the criticality of your queries, if the bot can't handle, then it gets a personal assistant call after that. So that's how they cater to their customers for service. So the questions that need to ask yourself are: what type of relationship does each of your customer segment accept us to establish and maintain with them? So so this is the basic question that you need to ask yourself to get to know about how you can reach your customers. The basic agenda or basic motive behind this customer relationship is, to acquire the customers, like how you can, get those customers to buy your product. So this all depends on the customer relationship part. And the next motive could be the customer retention, how you make the customers to pay back again and buy your product. So let's say Gillette has a nice strategy of a razor and blade strategy, that's called a revenue stream category, razor and blade, where you buy the razor for a very cheap rate, but then you need to change the blades, right? So every now and then you need to go to the markets and get the blades separately. So now what the people's mentality is, basically you have the razor in your hand and you don't want to waste it again or buy another razor again. So what you do is you go to the market and buy the blades separately for that. So these blades are the basic revenue models which the Gillette earns from. So these blades are quite costly, but whereas if you see, the razor is quite cheap. So that's a kind of knot they are put so that they can retain those customers, and it's a phenomenal revenue stream also. So the revenue stream is what we will be discussing next after the customer relationship. So now we'll get into Ola, how they have this customer relationship thing sorted out in their company. So how do they reach the customers for service? They have a self-serve app where on the Ola app itself you have contactors or support where they give a 24/7 support if a cab hasn't reached, or if you're not satisfied with the cab driver's uh, behavior. Or now recently, if you could see, they also come up with this mask thing where the if the driver has put on the mask or not. So that are the different kind of inputs that they're gathering from the customers and providing them as a service on the app itself. So the next thing would be the promotional offers that they give it to you, like some of the free coupons or credits that they give if the trip is delayed. So these are kind of customer relationship they are trying to maintain through offering you something. There are in-app and live services, like there are SOS buttons. If something goes wrong, you can press it and uh, the things get sorted out if there are some problems over there. And these are some kind of services that they provide so that they could retain those customers or make the customers happy, so that they frequently come again and again to them, so that they act as a customer retention for them. So next, we are going to talk about revenue stream, as I said. So now, as we have spoken about the customer point of view, like the customer, the value proposition that's being catered to them, how this value proposition reach to their customers through the channels, and the value and the customer relationship that the organization or the startup is trying to, provide to the customer through what kind of various ways. So that we have already discussed. Now we'll be discussing about the revenue stream. So how a company makes money out of their ideas. So represents the cash a company generates from each customer segment. So this could be, there are various kind of revenue streams. So it could be a usage fee or a subscription fee. So if you know Amazon Prime or Netflix or YouTube premium accounts and all, those are all a subscription based model where you pay monthly a specific amount so that you can keep using that product again and again. And then comes lending, renting, or leasing. It's all the same basically. So you pay an amount for using that product for a specific period of time, and then you return it back. So that's how renting or leasing model work. And so licensing is, again, if you have a core technology which is very well proven in the market, and if you don't want to take stress of doing the marketing stuff or reaching it to the customers and doing all the stuff on the ground level, then if you see immense potential in your product, then this is the option of licensing, where you can license your whole technology to another brand or a company or a entity, where they would make use of that technology and start making developing products or kind of stuff. So that's how it works. So let's say in the licensing, one good example could be, you must be nowadays seeing in most of your phones and TVs, like it's written Alexa inbuilt. So basically, it's a product from Alexa where it's a voice recognition system, which Amazon came up with in order to communicate with a AI over there, which takes care of let's say getting you some details or playing some songs or ordering some stuff online. So these are the various things that Alexa does. So what they did is, they, instead of just selling it as a hardware product, they also license this out. And many hardware startups out there, like let's say OnePlus phone or a MI TV, they have started using this Alexa in their devices, so that a customer can talk with that devices and get the response back. So Alexa is a technology that Amazon has built, and they have licensed it out to different customers out there who are using that. Yeah. So the questions which you could ask to yourself are, for what value are customers really willing to pay, or for what do they currently pay? So these are some of the questions. And from my experience, and from the mentors who have from the mentors of mine who have suggested me, I would like to also share that with you. Basically, if you are coming up with an idea or if you're developing a product, I would say you go to the customers with a value of their product. So basically, you sell their product for some amount. I don't say it would be a big amount or the final amount that you're aiming to sell it for. Just for a small amount, you can sell. Let's say for just testing it out. So if a customer is paying some small amount of money also for using some product, then is very much expecting a good service or a good feedback from that product. So that's why you would get a lot of feedbacks from customers. So if a customer comes to you and buys a product for some 100 rupees or 200 rupees, which is still in a R&D phase, or let's say you are validating that product, then it's very much likely that you would get legitimate feedback from those customers. So that's very much important for an initial level of startup journey. So the more the feedback that you get from the customers, the more you are going to iterate, and the product is going to get better very much soon. So if you're giving the product for free to some customers, it's not that likely to get legitimate feedback from them. But if you sell it for some small amount of money to a customer, he is very much likely to expect some good outcomes out of it. And if it's not giving that output, then he would be very much intrigued to get back to you and tell that this is what wrong in your product. And that feedbacks makes a acts a major point where you can take that feedback into consideration and work it out on your products. So for Ola, if you see, the various revenue streams that they have are through trip commissions, cab leasing programs, Ola credit card, corporate accounts, and through food service. Food service was long back, now they are shut down. So Ola Prime Play. So these are all the various features that they have on the app itself, where you pay in some extra amount of money to use that functionality. So that's how they make money out of it. Yeah. So next we will be getting, so on the customer point of view, we are seeing 5 blocks, which are the customer segment, the value proposition, the channels, the customer relationship, and the revenue stream part. Now we'll be getting into the organizational part, where we'll be looking into how the organization would be, taking forward all the activities, and we will be focusing on the activities, resources, as well as the financial segments. So this blocks comes into the organizational part. So we are done with the customer part. Now we are getting into the organizational part. So here we are going to talk about the key resources. So key resources are basically the assets that you have in your company, which basically help you to establish or come up, which helps you to get the product delivered to the customers. So this could be tangible or intangible assets there, which could be physical, intellectual, human, or financial. So let's say you run uh, a hardware or a manufacturing kind of product. So there would be more of human and physical assets involved. Or let's say you have a fintech company or software-based company. So in a software-based company, again, there are humans and intellectual thing involved. For a fintech-based company where more money kind of stuff is involved, there would be financial and human people involved over there. So that's how this key resources thing work. And the question that you need to ask yourself is, what kind of resources do our value propositions required to fulfill it? So considering this on the Ola segment, so Ola, how do they, what are the different kind of key resources that they have is, they have the technology. So obviously technology is the key resource that they have. So with the technology only, they are, that's the core product of theirs, right? So the technology, then they have the brand reputation that they have created. So this brand comes under the key resources, right? So due to this brand only, they are reaching out to customers, and it has a significant value in the customer's mind over a period of time. That Ola is about cabs, so that also acts as a resource. Then they have employees, they have engaged community where passengers and drivers interact. So that's a community. Then they have driver partners like the people who own the cabs and all. So these are all the resources that make the company run. So basically, without these resources, there's no company or there's no product. So these are the key resources that Ola has, and this is how you would also jot down your key resources. So now we will be talking about key activities. So resources are some assets that you have. Key activities are basically what you do to make this value proposition reach out to the customers, or how your product development or how your company operates on a daily basis. So that all would come inside the category of key activities. So key activities can be categorized as on the basis of production, problem solving, or platforms or networks. So let's say again you have a manufacturing kind of company, then it will be more on the production side. If you have a consulting firm, that then it would be more of a problem solving kind of stuff. So these are the kind of activities that the company would be involved in on a day-to-day basis. So what the question that you need to ask again is, what key activities do our value propositions require, right? So considering Ola, again, the key activities that they do is they need to be updated on a constant basis with the app that they have. So that's the platform growth basically. They need to manage the daily operations like hiring and verifying of drivers, providing incentives, performing car audits, then managing relationship with customers and government compliance with road taxes, RTOs, and kind of stuff. In sales and marketing, then managing the finance, like raising funds and strategizing the pricing and everything. That's a different part. So these are all the key activities that the company has to go through on a daily basis or on a whole basis to provide the end product to the customer. So so these are the two segments, like key resources and the key activities. Then we come into the key partnerships. So now this key resources and key activities that we already talked about, what people do is, most of the firms, big firms out there, what they do is they do it on a collaborative basis. So most of the startups step back when it comes to collaborations and all, but it makes more sense to ease out your process down the line, so that you can focus more on your product. So how that works is a network of suppliers and partners that make the business model work. So that those are the partnership basically. The motivation behind the partnership could be optimization and economy of sales. So basically, you're optimizing your work. Let's say your company is developing a technological stuff where let's say you need to come up with some hardware PCBs, or let's say you need to come up with some molds, or you need to come up with some design. So that if you don't have maximum resources over there, what you do is you go and partner out with other firms out there who are already good at that. Let's say who are good at designing. Let's say who are into the manufacturing segment of molds and all. Let's say who are good at who are already doing PCB printing and all. So those are kind of partnerships that you need to get into to optimize the things and stuff. And this could on a longer run also reduce your risk and uncertainty. Let's say you're taking all that work up and doing on your own, then it could lead to some failure at some point of time if those things are not done properly. So it's better to hand it over to some other entity or another partner, or let's say it could be a resource person also whom you partner out with, or a freelancer whom you partner out with who is well at doing that uh, process. That helps you to reduce the uncertainty that I said already. So how you could answer this? Who are your key partners and who are your key suppliers? So basically, if you're making a bike or you're making a car, so you won't take up the headache of making all the spare parts together on your own manufacturing setup. So you would buy the tires from the MRF or CEAT tires, or you would buy the batteries from X side or other companies out there. So this is how you would partner out with suppliers or other partners out there so that you can get their support to get their products done and get to the market as early as possible with less effort. For Ola, the partners are basically the key partnerships are basically with drivers and operational partners. For drivers, they have to they are partnering with the drivers out there who bring their cab or who drive the cab of Ola and help the people out that would commute from one place to another. Then they have operational partners where their core business very much depends on the location accuracy also. So they partner up with GPS service providers, internet providers in the sense in every car that driver is using, there has to be internet service so that the GPS works properly. GPS is independent of internet, but other specific functionalities like Ola Play that you have seen, the TV that sits behind, seat. So that has to have internet so that you can watch contents over there. So basically, that's what they are meaning about internet service providers. Then platform hosting services like platform hosting services would be Amazon where you host your web platform or something. So these are all kind of partners that come into picture which help you to take your business further. So now the final part is the cost structure. So now most of the business don't underestimate this part, but this part helps you to give a proper justification of how your company would go forward or how you need to plan the things out further. So the cost structure has to be worked out very much properly of what domain takes how much amount and how you burn it down the line. So all costs incurred to operate a business model is what the cost structure is. So this would be majorly categorized into cost driven and value driven. So most of the startup they go for the cost driven at the initial stages, and after they have scaled up to some extent, they move on to the value driven. So cost driven is basically during the initial point of time you have very less cost and you cut it down as much as possible, and using that cost you fulfill the objectives. But down the line, once you have started revenues and you're scaling up, at that point of time cost matters a bit low, but at that point of time the value that you cater to the customers out there values the most. So value is irrespective of cost at that point of time. So most of the companies, when they get bigger, they try to establish the value more, and even that if takes a bit of higher cost, they are ready to do it. So that's how it works. But during the initial stages, you need to split out all the activities that require cost and which would be burning major of your cost, so that you can manage it properly and you can run down your startup slowly with those cash burns. So the questions that you need to ask are: what are the most important costs inherent in our business model, and which key resources are most expensive? So basically, for Ola, if you see, the platform cost is where the major cost comes in. The another cost structure would be for sales and marketing, for promotions, branding, discounts and offers where they need to put in their own money, partners and community events. Then comes the operational cost, like for employees, they need to give salaries, for legals, for accounting, for infrastructure, for hosting. So these are the various activities which involve costing in that. So you need to split down all the different expenses which involve a high cost margin or low cost margin and plan it accordingly. So sorry. So on a broad, we have covered all the segments. Let me Yeah. So this is the basic concept of business model canvas. So how this would work is you take out a big printout of this business model canvas, which are already available out there on the website. So it's a blank business model canvas that you get, and you can sit down with your team and use post-it notes, or you can write it down manually, and you can come up with all this things that we talked about, like starting from there's a pattern for how do you start it. So it all starts from the customer segment, then it comes to the value proposition, then it comes to the channel, customer relationship, and the revenue part. So completing this, you have completed the customer side, then you come to the organizational side, where you start filling up the key resources, key activities, key partners, and the cost structure. So this all combined together form the business model canvas, and with this you will get to know how to take forward your business. So this keeps you very much sorted out, and you can assume this business model canvas as your mission statement for taking out your product further. So it acts as a roadmap for you to optimize the various workflows and strategies there in your company to take your ideas further to the customers. So we still have 5 minutes time. So let's do activity. If possible, I want people to, you know, drop down the answers in the chat box, or if possible, they can unmute themselves and answer to this question. So let's say we are filling in this business model canvas for Swiggy. So now we know how Swiggy operates and what are based on the various segments that we studied, we would try to fill in this Swiggy's business model canvas. So now let's start with the customer segment. So now can anyone tell me what are the customer segments that Swiggy is focusing on? Yeah, you people can unmute yourself, or
No, Sushil, they cannot unmute, but they can answer in the chat box.
yeah, chat. Yeah, if you guys can answer in the chat, then it would be great.
Okay, customers, all hotels and foodies, office.
Oh, you could see it. I couldn't see the answers. So
You can see, like in all panelists, they have mentioned. Shafi Ahmed says office, Hari office workers. Hari Naran sir says all hotels and foodies.
okay.
Bachelors, Sadish Prabhu sir says.
Yeah, great. So yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Uh, So yeah, people who do not wish to go out to restaurants, or people who who do not want to go to restaurants, or who do not want to cook and directly get food easily, like Sir said, bachelors, people who want to order food online and want to get it delivered, people who want to buy and get other products delivered, like other products. If you see, we have this Genie feature in the Swiggy, right? So if you want to pick up some provisions from the provisional store or from the pharmacy, then they can help you out with that. So these are the various customer segments they are focusing on. So now we'll move on to the value proposition part. So now can you answer what are the value propositions that Swiggy provide? Yeah, you can type it down on the chat.
Sir is asking, are the sellers belong to customer segment?
Sellers in the sense,
And
yeah. If you consider the customer segment as two parts, like for Swiggy, there are two parts of customer segments. One is the sellers, as you say, the restaurants. Those are one customer segment, and consumers are the other customer segment. So yeah, as you said, sellers are one of the customer segments for Swiggy. Yes. Yeah, great. Timely service.
Shafi Ahmed says,
Yeah, I could see. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, timely services. Any other answers?
Home delivery is also one of the things that Sadish Prabhu sir has mentioned as value.
Yeah. I could say it. Yeah.
Tracking.
Okay, tracking. Yeah. So people get to know where their order is. Yeah, great. So yeah, let me reveal that. So food, so value propositions. So tracking is one of the feature. So basically, the value proposition could be somewhere people getting to know where their food is. So that is the value propositions of food delivery with no restriction order policy. So efficient online payment system, no minimum order requirement for the valued proposition of Swiggy. And there are different payment methods. These are the value and the pain points that customers already have, and they have tried to satisfy it through their app. So next we will get into the channels. Can you guys tell me what could be the channels for Swiggy? Yeah, great. Apps. Yes. So yeah, great. So those are the mobile apps which are channels. There are websites. People do make use of websites, and there are digital marketing. So there are many Swiggy ads that come up in the YouTube every now and then, and you get diverted if you click on that to their website. So yeah, these are the basic channels that they use to reach their customers. Great. Yeah. So next we'll be focusing on customer relationship. So how do you think they are retaining or acquiring the customers or helping their customer with the service out there? Can you reply on this in the chat? Yeah, feedback. Okay. Yeah, feedback you mean yeah. Once you get the food delivered, you give the star ratings. Yeah, great. Offers and discounts. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so this is it. So as you said, there are social media pages that where look at their pages and get to know about the other offers and discounts that Swiggy has every now and then. And they also provide you with offers and discounts. That is a customer acquiring a customer retention strategy. Yes, that comes under that's the motive of customer relationship basically. So customer support chat, and we have 24/7 active support. Yeah, delivery free with purchase 3 months plan. Yes, awesome. Yeah, so that the Swiggy Bingy plan that comes in. Yeah, so they cut down your transport fees or the delivery charges. Yeah, great. So yeah, so next we will get into the revenue streams. So how they are making the revenue out of this business. So can you put that down the chat, guys? Yeah, wallet. Yeah, wallet is one of the things. Ads, yes, ads is one of the revenue streams for them. Sales, they do it, but in sales, basically that also comes in with the profit margin of the seller, right? So the commission is what the revenue stream of their Swiggy is. So the commission is basically the revenue stream for them. It's not the sales. On a broad, it could be set sales, but the commissioning is where they get the revenue from, right? So this is it. The commissioning, delivery charges. The part of the delivery charges goes to the delivery person and also to the Swiggy out there. It comes from ads as advertisement and comes from affiliate income as well as Swiggy Access or Super. The Swiggy Bingy plan, as you said, delivery free with purchase 3 months plan, as Afsal Bijli said. Yeah, yeah. So it comes in under the revenue stream also. Yeah, it's a kind of methodology that they use to generate revenue, attracting the customers. Yeah. So next we will get into key resources. So now can you put in the chat like what are the key resources that Swiggy has or they have to get this business going? Yeah, people software. Yeah, software is the core thing. People, yeah, they are need backend stuff and all. Yes, great. So local restaurants and shops, delivery providers and the technology. As you said, software, that's the technology. The local restaurants and shops are the another key resources because without them, they won't be able to get the food, right? Delivery providers are basically the people who work for them. That could be the people working in their company as well as the people who deliver the food on the roads, taking it from restaurants to the people. Yes, great. Next, we will be going into key activities. Can you guys put that in the chat? What could be the key activities? Yes, food delivery. Yeah, food delivery is one of the key activities. Yes, groceries. Okay, okay. Groceries as key resources. Okay. Key activities. Yeah, food delivering. Onboarding, delivering guys every now and then. Onboarding various shops or restaurants every now and then. That could be the daily operations that happen. That could come under the key activities, right? So yes, key activities, partnership with eateries, as I said, and hiring delivery providers every now and then, managing deliveries and payment processes. So these are some of the key activities over there. Yeah, satisfying customer needs also comes inside managing deliveries and everything. So that's a strategy that they need to work out in the key activities part. It would come inside that in some point. Yeah. So this 3 points are on a broad perspective, but satisfying customer needs is another internal thing that they need to focus on. That would come somewhere in this three. Yeah. Next, we would get into key partners like their business won't run. Uh, they get the help from them basically. Those are the key partners. So yes, yes, restaurants, awesome. Groceries, as you said before, groceries are another key partners, right? Yeah. Again, delivery providers are also key partners over here. Technology providers, great, great. Services like Amazon, services like GPS providers. Yeah. So these are all the technology providers, great. It's not listed down here, but it's a great input. It's apt for getting into key partners. Yes. Next, we'll get down into cost structure. Can you tell about what could be the different cost structure involved in running their businesses? Awesome, awesome. Hosting and server cost, human resource cost for delivery and management, packaging cost, promotions. Exactly, exactly. It's great. Yeah. So payroll expenses for its employees and deliveries. So that's basically human resource cost for delivery as well as the management. Yeah, that covers cost of application and website development, hosting and server cost. Awesome. running costs and maintenance charges that comes inside server cost and something. Yeah, packaging cost. Packaging cost somewhere comes uh, on the, it's somewhere dependent on the seller side also. Like sellers put the effort from their side to give it in a good packaging so that people come again to their restaurants to buy, right, through the app. So it's more of on the seller's side. So that doesn't come, it to some extent it doesn't come inside Swiggy's cost structure. Okay. Uh, Promotions cost, yes. Advertisement administration, it comes inside that. Yes. Great guys, great guys. Great answers. Thanks for cooperating. Yeah. So I hope it was very much useful to get going with things like business model canvas. I hope this will help you further to evaluate your ideas and startups. So I would recommend to start off with this thing. You sit with your team, you brainstorm and put all these segments and all these categories on a single big sheet, and iterate it every now and then. Look into that, how you can enhance it or how you can strategize other processes, and you know uh, work it out. So this will help you to build a product roadmap, and this would be a complete mission statement of your product or your idea, right? So yeah, so let's wind up. It's already 10 minutes late, sorry for that. But I hope I've done justice for the resource that I provided. Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you, Sushil.
yeah,
Thank you, Sushil, for the session. It was really interactive. You made it interactive. And
yeah.
I remember you said that you'll be able to finish the session within half an hour. And I said, how come half an hour is enough for you? And here we are. And
Yeah,
thank you for making it interactive. And I suppose that all our participants would have jotted down key points and would have got a great in-depth insight on business model canvas.
yeah,
Anybody, any questions? We can. I'm sure Sushri will be happy to answer them.
yeah. Any queries out there? It's yeah, you're open to ask. Yeah. Thanks again to CIC. Yeah, thanks again to CIC. Thanks to Bona, and also you guys had been a great audience. Thanks for cooperating. It was a great session. Are there any questions? If not, then we can wind up the sessions, or I can, if possible, I can also share you my contact details if you want. You can get back to me if you have any queries. I would be really glad to help you out. Yes.
I think the session was so clear that nobody has any question on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So anybody, any queries, you can reach out to us. And Sushil, as he said, that he'll be sharing his contact number. So he'll be happy to help you guys. So I'm sharing the feedback link in the chat. So we'll be circulating the certificates based on the feedback submission. So kindly fill it up. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sushil. Thank you, audience. And thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Satish
Thanks a
and
lot.
Harinaran sir for helping us. And thank you, my team also. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Great guys. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks.